Hey guys, a little bit more of a follow-up on this 350 Chevrolet overhaul. I'm going to call it a freshening because basically I'm just going through, rechecking the bearings, making sure they're good, checking the clearances, rehone the block, go with a fresh set of rings, change the pressure on the oil pump. I mentioned in some of my other videos that I had put a high volume oil pump in this engine the last time I went through it, and I absolutely hated it because it gave me way too much oil pressure, because this engine has really tight bearing clearances in it, and you combine even a 10W30, 5W30, the weight of the oil didn't really matter that much with that high volume pump and those tight bearing clearances. Cold engine, you're at 80 plus. Or well, let's say this, at say 1,000 RPM cold start idle, you were holding about between 65 and 70 pounds of oil pressure. And if you tried to drive it before the engine oil warmed up fully, at 1,500 RPMs, you were pegging almost 100 pounds of oil pressure, which is absolutely ridiculous. So basically to remedy that, I swapped out the purple high pressure spring, because apparently that high volume oil pump has a much higher pressure spring, but I had done some research I found online where you can substitute that purple spring in that high volume pump with the yellow standard pressure pump, and it's going to put me back in the range, you know, that a normal engine would want to see under cold start and fully warmed operating oil pressures. So basically I just pulled basically you pull your bottom plate off your oil pan, drive out a small pin, it releases the spring, which in turn, you know, you just basically pull one spring out, put another spring in, compress it, put the pin back in it, put the plate on. I think the torque spec on the oil pump bottom plate's like 7 foot-pounds. I have a Harbor Freight torque wrench. I absolutely didn't like the way it was acting when I tried to torque it to 7 foot-pounds. So I basically just snugged them tight with, you know, my good and tight technique to make sure that they were seated fully and I knew they wouldn't come undone, and I wasn't standing a chance of stripping a bow hole out on that stupid almost new oil pump. So set up that high volume oil pump with the yellow standard pressure spring. It's good to roll. All the bearings are looking like brand new out of the box. I have to get another set of piston rings because the guy I had who was getting me a set had to actually get me a deal on them, because these are the shallow oil receiver groove pistons from the 95 engines. For some reason, General Motors, not on all of them, but on some of the engines made in 95, they thought it would be a good idea to have a 165 thousandths receiver groove for the oil ring. The rest of the pistons have a 200 thousandths receiver groove for a regular standard oil ring setup, but these have that 165 thousandths shallow receiver groove or area for the oil rings, which makes the piston rings cost more, which is a huge headache. But I had worked out a deal with a friend of mine, but he's no longer working with that company. So now I'm back to the drawing board, finding another set of rings, which kind of messed up my lower end short block assembly plans for the weekend. But that's not going to be the end of the world. Monday I will run out and find a deal, because I do have, you know, different discounts and coupons at the different auto part manufacturers. Plus I think Star Performance might have one set of rings, Perfect Circle or something, that's listed as shallow oil ring set. And if I could get those for I think they were $48 or $49, I'm gonna jump on that with both feet, because they're between $70 and $90 ring sets at the part stores. So Anyway, not to bore you guys with piston ring drama, but I'm going to go get a new set of rings for these pistons. Like I said, I had finished honing this block. I got the texture and the finish that I wanted, completely washed it. I've got the bottom, I guess it'd be the top half of the main bearings in the block. Crank is cleaned, I've blown it out, brushed it, and washed it, because I've mentioned in at least one of my videos, I know, no matter how clean something looks, don't trust it. If you didn't personally wash it, wash it. Like when you go, even if you go to the most reputable machine shop in the world, I'm not talking down on anybody's business, I promise you. But when you go pick up a block and they have it sealed in plastic and they're like, yeah man, it's ready to go, ready to assemble, wash it. No matter what they did, no matter how they cleaned it, they're not going to do as thorough of a job as you will. I've said that more times than, over my lifetime than I could count. Because, when I was younger, I trusted the machine shop washing, and I've gotten burned. I've had trash come out of the crankshaft, come out of the block and groove bearings, and I mean, it's a huge pain in the neck. So when you get your parts, wash them. Blow them out, brush them, like on your oil, every single oil hole in your crankshaft. You need to run a brush through it, you need to blow it out, you need to wash it. Make sure it's 100% eat off it clean. Block, same way, wash it, run a brush through it. Make sure there is nothing that can come in contact with those engine bearings on startup, because trust me, I've been down that road and it will make you want to pull your hair out. And as you've seen in some of my videos, I don't have any hair left to pull out, so I'm washing everything I can and making sure that there ain't nothing in there that's going to make me mad. So other than that, I'm looking at the timing set, probably going with the comp cams, double roller set. I'll degree the cam in and get this thing rolling. So I know for sure the short block will be done Monday. God willing, I get those piston rings. The short block will be done Monday. I'd like to be able to get the heads final assembled and put on the engine on Tuesday. Then we will finish the modifications as needed to that TBI aluminum intake to make sure that I can bolt those center 4 bolt holes to my 1971 cylinder head. So I'll probably have to do a separate video on that process, because that's something that not everybody's familiar with. So I'll cover that topic later, because it gets too confusing for people to just throw it out in your lap and have you understand. So basically I'm going to get this thing rolling. I know Parrish is needing this engine because his truck has been down for several weeks now. I believe, knock on wood, that the transmission builder has finished rebuilding his 700 R4. So if I get this engine done, possibly sometime this week or maybe next weekend, they might be able to get that thing put back together so he can get it back on the road. So anyway, I just like to document all these builds that I work on. That way, anyone can go to my channel. They can see the work I do. I try to document everything, and that way if they have any questions, I can say, hey, check out the video. Hopefully that'll answer your questions. So I appreciate you guys watching these videos. It's really a lot more fun to make these videos than people would probably think it would be. I just appreciate you guys watching, and I get a kick out of it, so keep watching.